Hello, everyone. Thank you, Cristina Ordonez, for being here with us today. Cristina, she's an executive coach for corporate leaders. She's an amazing mindfulness leader, leadership coach, yoga instructor. She calls herself the corporate yogi. I'm going to ask about that. And yeah, let's hear about your story, Cristina. And I'm very curious about how you help leverage the abilities of leadership and make them grow in their roles.
Yeah. So, hi, everyone. My name's Cristina. I had a really long career in consulting, doing mergers and acquisitions, where I help companies to make up and break up. And I found that the higher I climbed, the sicker I became. I started to have migraines for 6, 7 months at a time, ending up in the hospital, and finally left my partner track to start discovering, well, what is causing my health issues? And it was my stress. And so I started to heal my stress and realized that this is a problem across corporate America, and have now become an executive coach to help leaders to heal their stress, but then also to step into their higher leader and become more effective within their organizations.
How do you go about noticing, let's say for myself, it happens to me and I'm going to be super transparent and vulnerable. So in my case, like I get, sometimes I wake up, you know, those demons at night, like 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. and you can't go back to sleep. Those could be something, sometimes it gets chronic, and you think that that's how life is after 40. But the reality is that that shouldn't be the case. Like, how do you yourself? When did you decide? Okay, this is not a good life. I need to stop it. What was the next step or the first step you took to fix that problem?
Yeah, I had hired a coach myself. I really wanted to stay in consulting, and I hired a coach with the intention of, I've got to start solving this stress and health problem, or I don't, like, this is just isn't a way a person's supposed to live life. And about 9 months into working with her and just doing my normal consulting, I came to the realization that for me, I needed to step away from that environment and start to reassess what would make sense for me. And so the first thing I did was actually take about a month off, did nothing. And then I went into yoga teacher training. I thought I would take a short summer sabbatical and go right back to work. When I thought about it in the fall, going back to work, I got really tensed up. My whole body said, no, this isn't right. And so I said, what's the next best thing I can do? And that's when I decided to pursue my coaching certification, more for my own education than I ever thought for a career. But you know, how funny how things turn out.
Yeah, that's crazy. And there's some, and you can tell me about it, the stoicism principles and resiliency, and you have to go through hardships and whatever. But the reality is that we, like, yes, we have to find a wall and we have to level up and things like that. But at the same time, you need to be able to take care of yourself to be able to build a resilience to cope up with bigger problems as you grow up as a bigger person. So now you becoming a coach yourself for a longest time. um, how do you make sure, like, how do you read when someone is having issues, and how do you help them? And this is something great, because if someone having this sort of things, they will contact you. They will be able to resonate with what you're saying. But because I think this is one of those things that we don't post online. We don't say that we have these things, and but when we say it openly like this, they might say, okay, yeah, I'm suffering from this. Like, more people than not, they do have these problems, no?
Yeah, I mean, look, I like to say stress is not a bad thing. To your point of building resilience, of growth happens in discomfort. So we want to have a certain level of stress in our lives. The problem is chronic stress. So stress is meant to be something that is relatively quick. Let's call it under 5 minutes. When we are feeling chronic stress, we have health issues like gut issues, headaches, back pain. Um, a lot of my clients suffer from not feeling present at home. Their kids feel like they're talking to a wall. They have trouble sleeping at night. You mentioned getting up at 3 a.m. That's really common for a lot of my clients. They turn off their computer, let's call it at 6 p.m., but they never turn off their brain. So they're constantly running that to-do list. They're thinking about work 24/7. The first thing they do when they get up is check their email and rush to Slack to start answering questions. So it's this idea that they've let stress and they've let work take on too much of a portion of their life. And most people come to me with this, I want to take my life back. And they think, some of the times they think the answer is, hey, I just need to add a person to my team, or maybe I need to take a different role. But what I found is that it's actually internal. It's who they are as high achievers. They want to keep performing and keep pushing above, that they have to learn, hey, my value proposition has now changed now that I've become director or VP. And I need to start living up to a new standard of my value prop and owning it, rather than just trying to be the monkey that does everything all the time.
That's so good. So this is a marathon, not a sprint. So we need to be able to go lengths, and to do that, like it's not feasible for us to be waking up at 3 a.m. and suffering every day. It doesn't make sense at all. So when you get how long do you use any medications to people, or is just everything is natural, like yoga? Okay, mindset.
Natural mindset, yoga, mindfulness. I love quick resets. I highly recommend them to a lot of my clients because they're in back-to-back meetings. And so I think we think that stress is something where we need a 30-minute walk to decompress, when in reality, our bodies only need about 2 minutes to actually start the decompression. So breath work is one of my favorites. Getting up and having a dance party, drawing, even if you just draw the same thing over and over again, it all moves our mind away from the rut of stress into a more open perspective that helps us to show up better as leaders. And so those are some of the things I teach my clients right off the bat. And then as I work with them, we get more into what are the core thoughts that are driving your need to constantly be on, your need to constantly reply. And more often than not, it's a thought of, I'm not enough, or they're going to see me as a failure. And this fear of, if I don't constantly perform, I'm viewed as a failure, and the score resets every day. Everything that I've done for 15 years to be amazing doesn't count, because today it's a 0-0. And so helping them to recognize, hey, that mindset worked in the beginning and helping you to grow, and now it's starting to prohibit you, and help them to think through what is a new, more supportive mindset that they want to take on to help them in their next chapter of their career and life.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's a relationship between, I believe that there's a relationship between a leader that maybe it's just blocking the growth of the company themselves, and yes, it could be around marketing, it could be around sales or whatever, but if what they have here is not letting them advance or level up also the pocket of the company or themselves gets directly proportionate to the limiting beliefs that they have. So because I have interviewed sales people and I have interviewed marketing. So if we put everything together, it doesn't do well if they don't have the mindset to be able to grow as well and level up as they should be. And the only way to do it is with the stuff that you do.
Yeah, correct. I mean, mindset is, our thoughts create our reality, and they literally do. In terms of our thoughts then create hormones in our body that our bodies react to. And that's really how stress happens. We're the only animal in this ecosystem where our thoughts can actually trigger stress. And when you think about leadership, some of the core competencies of leadership is communication, decision making, creativity, finding ways to get things done in a faster way, in a faster mode, or overthinking a problem. And all of those require strong frontal lobe, and strong frontal lobe requires rest. And so it's this idea of we as Americans have thought, you just got to push hard and push through, and that's what makes you successful. But as you climb the ladder, your mindset becomes so important, and rest becomes so important. I'm not saying rest 24/7, but taking these little micro breaks, making sure you're giving yourself time and space to reset your mind, so that when the problems come, or when the communication need come and the people management comes, you're coming from a space of not stress, but a space of openness and reception.
And I think you nailed it on the family also. Like I didn't think about it, but there's also people every time I have small kids myself, and the fact that I talk to people sometimes and they say, "Oh, just enjoy, everything happens so quickly." And I remember one conversation with someone that he said, I didn't enjoy having them little bit because I was very stressed and I was thinking about work all the time, and I regret it so much because like they grow up and you lose them, they go away and stuff. So I think being present with family is something that I have myself suffered, and I've been in like maybe holidays or things like that where I'm just not enjoying as much as I should because I'm just thinking about my business. I'm thinking about payroll. I'm thinking about all the stuff that it doesn't matter in that moment, because you have to enjoy them and you have to be there for them, because why are you doing what you're doing at the end of the day? So that's something that is very powerful too, with in the family orientation of your coaching.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised when I started how frequently I was hearing the word, "I want to be present at home." I didn't think it was something that was a driving factor for them, but it ended up being one of the most common things I heard across all leaders is, how do I find ways to be present at home? How do I find ways to disconnect from my work when it's, at whatever time I decide to, and actually show up? Because they're noticing that their daughters are repeating themselves. They're noticing that they're just glazing over story time. And to your point, these are the precious memories. And I think there's a study that shows by the time your kid's 18, you've spent 95% of the time you're going to have with them. That's it. You only get 5% left once they leave the house. And so it's about maximizing that time. And that doesn't mean you need to have more time with them. It means the time that you have, you're really there with them, enjoying them, learning with them, interacting with them. And they notice that. They notice, "Hey, mom, you're stressed." That happens all the time. And they notice when you're not. And it actually impacts their own development too. What they see you do is what they see as normal.
That's super powerful. That's super powerful. So like those are going to be great statements. I'm going to make sure that that's a short that we will put it in everywhere, because that's super, super powerful. I don't think there's an entrepreneur that is not, or that has not suffered from those 2-3 things that we have mentioned before, including myself. So is there any story of transformation? Let's say someone that you recall that it was a mess when you met him or met her, and then you, in a short period of time, you just transform them with your magic. You don't have to say names, obviously, but something that makes you proud, so that we can also make another little short with that story that you can tell us.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I had a client that came to me ready to just quit her job. She's a high performer, loves actually her job, but was so burned out that she's like, "I think I'm going to quit and go work the front desk at a Pilates studio." And I was like, "Well, I don't think that's what you really want." And so in the matter of 3 months, we started to unpack, well, what was driving her need to constantly be on, and what was really driving this inability to come home and be present with her girls. And it was this, "I'm not enough." It was this, "If I don't do this, I'm going to get punished," which was totally in her mind. It wasn't in the reality of the job. So we kind of we worked through that. We helped her to get comfortable with making boundaries. And the thing I always say is that we use mindset to help get through the discomfort of the first level of boundaries or the first level of change, because then once you make that change, you gather evidence, and that evidence is strong enough for you to continue that change. And so that's what happened for her. We worked on the mindset enough to get her through those first uncomfortable. And then she realized, oh, nobody's asking for me at 8 p.m. I don't have to be online anymore. I can actually answer this at 9 a.m. and everyone's completely happy with that. And everyone's getting along. I'm getting more time with my girls. At the end of our 3 months, her boss actually surprised her and said, I think you're doing amazing. I've noticed such a change in you. Here's a bonus for, you know, all the work that you've done. And I've seen how much work and effectiveness you've made with the team. And she made some really great strides with the client. And so it was one of those times when I realized how closely connected healing your stress and healing your thoughts were to your actual job performance. And she's one of almost every single one of my clients have had a similar story where we end our container, and either within the container or within 6 months of the container, they have a new job, they have a promotion, they have a bonus, they have, you know, or they have a raise. And it's all about the fact that the changes they make are stuff that executives in the higher level leadership actually notice and want to reward.
Yeah. So sometimes we make stories in our mind that are not true, which is what I got from this as well. And yes, like we are just expected to perform so much at work sometimes that we just give out, and we get used to it until the time that we don't, and that's when we break. And I think this is what happened with this lady. But I'm glad that she got away from that cruel cycle and be with her girls. I wanted to thank you very much, Cristina. This was a bliss. I think this is one of the best episodes that I had so far.
Great.
We had like a few, like 20 something, 30. So it's I think in my eyes, mindset is super important. So if someone wants to contact you and ask you questions, it's LinkedIn okay? So that they can, okay.
Yeah, LinkedIn's great, or CristinaOrdonezCoach.com. You can find all my information there.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Cristina. It was great, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.